sexism is pretty stupid when you get right down to it. And I say that in the sense of people who identify themselves solely as, like their preferred group is their own sex, And I suppose some people do it the other way, or they turn against their own sex and they hold the other sex up as being perfect and wonderful. They denigrate their own sex and kind of worship the other one. But either way, it's pretty stupid. It's understandable. It's very understandable why people do that, why they think that way, why they go down that road. It's just that it doesn't really hold up. I think if you spend enough time with enough people and really kind of just, I know it's a cliche and people say it's naive, but you really do have to try to see people as people, first and foremost, just as human beings, and not what sex they are. And and when you do that, when you just interact with enough people and you know enough people and you kind of see them for who they really are, then you realize that sex is not the deciding factor in whether they are wise or good or pleasant or kind or cruel or stupid or devious or evil or manipulative or insensitive, anything like that. That's not what determines it. It's all just a matter of the individual person, deeper within and above their physical sex. Now, I want to clarify that in no way am I suggesting that men and women are, the same. Like, men and women are different, obviously. Male and female human beings are different, and we have, different predilections, different inclinations, different, broadly speaking, there are personality traits and, skills and talents and strengths and weaknesses that can be described, broadly speaking, as applying more to males, females, men, women, whatever. But that's also just speaking in a really general kind of way. And I think the really important part of that to keep in mind is that we have much more in common than we have different. Men and women are much more similar than we are different. All the little differences, and that's, there's nothing wrong with those differences. Like, people are different, and that's good, because we need different kinds of people, to really complete the picture of humanity. We need differences. We need different flavors of people. We need different shapes of people. I don't mean literally in any of this. I mean, in terms of their personality and their essence, their spirit, their soul, their minds, that kind of thing. That's what I mean. And we need that. Because, well, different kinds of people complement each other. And, because, human beings, like, I'm not the most social person, just in terms of my own, I like a lot of time to myself. I like, I like time to think. I like, I like solitude when I can get it. But we are, ultimately, as human beings, we are social animals, and we need each other. We need to form a society. We need to form a group. We need to have each other and look out for each other. And the only way we can do that is by having lots of different kinds of people who have different skills and different talents and different interests and different strengths and different weaknesses. So it's good that like men and women, broadly speaking, complement each other, and we do different things. But also, that's only broadly speaking, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people who acknowledge that, right? That acknowledge the differences between the sexes. I think they like, on the one hand, that's good. It's good to be honest and good to acknowledge it's just basically just pretty obvious reality. But then the people who do that, they also often fall into a separate trap of thinking that one is better than the other. One is and even more importantly than that, it's they start to think that these are like hard categories. They start to think that people are rigidly defined as this and that, and that's not really, or rigidly defined in terms of just like who they are physically. But that's not the case. There's tons of overlap, and there's huge amounts of gradation, and ultimately a person is just there's no way you can't just say, oh, this person is a man, this person is a woman, they're this way or that way. That's not the way it works, obviously. I think people with experience, with other people who don't just lock themselves into that way of thinking, and and kind of are willing to take people as they are, and not what they think they should be. I think people like that, who are more open-minded, realize pretty quickly that men and women vary hugely in terms of everything, really. And that's why I think it's silly to deny that, broadly speaking, men and women have a lot of differences, but then it's also very silly to be dogmatic about that and go in the other direction and assume that men and women are, fundamentally different, or, maybe fundamentally different is a bad way of putting it, but radically different, I guess. Because ultimately, no, I mean, we're like at least 90% the same, I think. We're human beings, right? And we do have some differences, but they pale in comparison to our similarities and our shared purpose and our shared union, and the fact that we're all just part of the same whole. We're just halves of the same whole. And, and so, I think people who foolishly, believe that one sex is superior to the other, or, people think, rationality only belongs to men or only belongs to women, or, I see people going on both sides, decrying the other and condemning the other sex, saying like, and their own sex in the case of self-hating people, but they decry the other sex, the same sex, because they say, oh, that other one is so, so ruled by their emotions, we're the rational ones, and blah, 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 and all that, and it's like, well, I don't think that's true. I don't think, I see reasonable, rational behavior, from men and women, and I see foolish, foolish, overly temperamental behavior for men and women also. And I think it's just I think in the end it boils down to, is this person smart or not? Is this person in control of their, of their emotions or not? I think that's what matters. I think that's what, yeah, and I don't know, And then because, on the other hand, like, okay, obviously, broadly speaking, like, men are more, like, forceful and aggressive in our behavior, right? Sure, that's obvious. I think only a fool would deny that, broadly speaking, And then, broadly speaking, women can get, a little worked up about some things, and they can get a little, a little temperamental, a little, I don't know quite how to say it, how to, like, jittery, kind of, panicky, women can, like, men can get excessively aggressive about things, and, and just kind of, like, end up causing harm because of that, right? And then, on the other hand, women, broadly speaking, can get, like, fearful of things, and I'm not saying that in a bad way, or like to, as like a moral judgment or anything. It's just, like, I think most people know what I'm saying, right? Like, women need, reassurance, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's like sometimes men need to be kind of like reined in and kind of calm down, right? Because we get too, like, aggressive about things. And then, and then women can get, like, kind of, they can, like, lash out because of fear. Women can need to be, calmed and, kind of reassured, because, and these are just, like, our natural responses to what our like, our primitive kind of roles would be, right? Like, in like, just like primitive humanity, like pre-civilized humanity, be like, the natural kind of role would be for men to, to, like, in response to a threat, right? Like, say there's a threat, and like the tribe is being threatened or whatever, and so, the men would like respond with force generally, and, and like aim to protect and, and like, strike back at whatever is, perceived as the threat. And then, and then women would be more of like, trying to, like, protect the children, like protect themselves, like, kind of, like taking shelter, like being more cautious about it. And that's, obviously that was a very sensible, kind of way to handle threats like that in the early days. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so, that's it's very similar today. Hey, maybe it's even exactly the same, because although we have, we've civilized ourselves, and we have, we have so much technology, and we have so much more knowledge, and we have so much more insight, that it's easy for people to start to think that we are above or different from our more primitive ancestors. And, well, in some ways, yeah, and in some respects we are. In a lot of other ways, we're not. We're fundamentally the same. We just kind of built ourselves up in our own minds and allowed ourselves to believe that we are better than all those who came before, when in reality we share the same needs and the same purpose and the same fundamental reality of who we are in the world, and what the world that we inhabit is. It's really not so different. It is different. It's more similar than different, I think. The modern world and the ancient prehistoric world of humanity, worlds of humanity. But yeah. So, broadly speaking, and see, there's the thing, is that these kind of behavioral patterns that you can broadly observe in in men and women and males and females. These are not hard category. Of course, there's many brave women, or maybe brave is the aggressive, I should say, aggressive. Like, there are a lot of aggressive women, and there are a lot of fearful men. There are a lot of cautious. Maybe cautious is the better, but aggressive and cautious. And these behaviors are not in any way strictly determined by sex. They're just generally, I think it's fair to say, like, I don't think that should be controversial, is that they're generally informed by sex. Like, you can kind of usually gauge how a person would react to a threatening situation by his or her sex, right? Like, I think you would kind of, it's like, it's a safe bet, right? Usually you got like at least a 70% chance of correctly guessing what someone's response to a threat would be, by whether they're male or female. And that's just the way it is. Some people might find that controversial or something, but I think that's stupid. I think that's ridiculous, because it's just, at the end of the day, this is just common sense stuff that, I think everyone really who's like spent a lot of time among people should just know these things and just be willing to admit it. I think we kind of we kid ourselves in the modern postmodern world we live in, or whatever the hell age we're living in now. I think we kind of kid ourselves. We allow ourselves to believe these notions of everyone being exactly the same. And anyway, that aside, my point is that people fall into this silly idea of one sex being quote unquote better than the other, and that's just very silly, because neither one is better. We're just people. We have our little differences, but fundamentally we're just human beings. We have some differences, but that's it. Just little differences, really. And usually they're complementary. Like, most of the time, if not always, they're complementary, as long as we allow them to be complementary, as long as we don't fight against what our true nature is, as long as we just, as long as we're just honest. I think it's kind of my philosophy on life, is that as long as we're just honest about, really what we are, as long as we're just honest about who and what we are, then things usually work themselves out. I'm not saying always, because, life fundamentally isn't fair, but it's only when we categorically deny our nature, I think, that things just turn into a mess and turn into chaos, and we start to just doubt everything, and, we can't function. It's really when we deny what we are, when we pretend to be something that we are not. That's when things turn to crap. That's when things get messed up and nobody knows what's going on anymore. And to some extent, that's kind of the situation that, like, the modern Western world is in. But but I digress. That's my point. And it's not like, because I'm definitely not saying we should just like embrace the primal completely and just like, go nuts. Like, I don't think that would be good either. I think it's a delicate balancing act. Maybe not delicate, but I think it's a precise balancing act. I think we gotta get this stuff, gotta figure it out. And I don't know, but don't let yourself fall into the trap of sexism, or believing that either sex is better than the other, because we're just two sides of the same coin, and we're just, ultimately we're on the same coin. We're on the same piece of metal, and we belong to the same identity, and we are all human, and we all need each other, and all that good stuff. And we just, we need to learn to, it sounds silly, but we need to learn to love each other and not quibble over the little differences, and not just look at each other as an enemy to pin all our own failings on and, just vent our frustrations with the world on. Because ultimately, those are our own responsibility to deal with, My failings are not the responsibility of anyone else. Your failings are not the responsibility of anyone else. It's, we have to own those things, and we have to fix them, and we have to make a sincere effort of it. Anyway, if nothing else, we have to make a sincere effort of repairing our own failures.